The Timberwolves. Everyone's favourite franchise of young kids that are dogged by changes in coach, locker room dramas, defensive woes, and the constant fear that the kids might never feel their potential. It wouldn't be an NBA season if the Timberwolves weren't flirting with making the playoffs, and journalists and fans were arguing about whether Wiggins was lazy or simply misused. Well, we are potentially going to find out once again due to the Wolves firing coach Tom Thibdeau and trading Jimmy Butler. The role has opened up for him to be the clear second star alongside Karl Anthony Towns once again, and the only question is, can he fill it? Wiggins was handed an enormous 5-year $150 million extension before his fourth and final year of his rookie contract. It saw him become one of the highest paid players on his potential, but it was also on the back of consistent improvement over 3 seasons, scoring 23 points per game in just his third year and having some of the most insane athleticism in the NBA. But many fans argue that Wiggins has always gotten by with just his athleticism, that he rode it to the number 1 pick and then to this massive extension without putting in as much effort as other players. Now I want to quickly rebut this point. I think that you can be annoyed that Wiggins isn't as good as he could have been, but no player, no matter how athletic they are, can get by without putting in some work. Andrew might not have made astronomical strides in his 3-point shooting, defense, or his passing and basketball IQ, but he's improved slightly in all of these areas, and this season, he might look like he's putting it all together. When he came into the league, he resembled a different era. In high school, he was dubbed Maple Jordan, a throwback to the deadly combination of athleticism and mid-range shooting that Michael Jordan possessed. Watching highlights of Wiggins in college and high school, and you could see this, the insane dunks, the mid-range pull-ups, and attacking players from post-up positions and off the dribble from the perimeter. But with hindsight, it might actually have been a little clearer that Wiggins was no longer suited perfectly for the modern NBA. The modern NBA relies so much on being able to create open 3-point shots and convert them. This is done in a few ways, but it essentially requires players that can create double teams and then pass out of them, and shooters that can knock down these shots. Now there are more things to offensive systems in the NBA, but these two things are pretty big parts. When he came out of college, Wiggins could create double teams, and teams would in fact double team the hell out of him. But for one main reason, he was not a good passer out of them. Wiggins would frequently try and drive past a second defender to make a tough layup or floater, or simply try and rise up and shoot over the top of 2 guys. And if you're guessing at home that these shots probably didn't go in at a high rate, then congratulations, you're spot on. But this was his rookie year, and he was on a pretty terrible team. A lot of fans, including myself, were just impressed he had scored at a decent clip and looked comfortable in the NBA. The passing would come, we would tell ourselves, and we would be wrong. Wiggins has always struggled with his passing, and it is something that seriously limits him as a player. If he could pass, he could better capitalize on double teams and hit open shooters for the most effective shot in the league. This would also probably result in teams not doubling him as much, because right now there are little to no consequences of doubling Wiggins, and if I was a coach, I'd have players double every time he goes to dribble into the paint. The other common criticisms of Wiggins in the past are that he has been lackadaisical on defense and that he himself cannot shoot threes. Both of these have been issues for a long time, and it has never really made sense to me how he didn't develop in these areas. Wiggins has a very good looking jumper that is mechanically sound. It beggars belief as to why he hasn't been able to develop a consistent 3-point jumper. Then there is the defense, the most frustrating of all these things in the past. Wiggins is an incredible athlete. He is tall, long, and has amazing quickness both up and down the court and laterally. He has every tool you would want from a world-class defender, and yet he has never really managed to consistently bring the defense over the course of an entire season. There are some nights and some plays where you see the potential underneath the player. Wiggins will have a game where he locks down his direct opponent, blocks some shots, and gets a steal or 2. Then there are other nights where Wiggins looks like he doesn't care. He stands next to his opponent when they're off ball and doesn't look like he's even considering whether he should go for a steal or a block. And sometimes he lets players who are far less quick just blow right by him. These things make no sense, and one wonders whether this is just about effort. The thing that I think gives it away to me is his rebounding. As mentioned, Wiggins is a freak athlete. You would think a guy like him would be great at grabbing rebounds both defensively and sneaking in for the occasional offensive rebound. Yet Wiggins gets far less rebounds per game when compared to other players playing his position, and rebounding is largely about effort. Wiggins just doesn't put in the effort on this aspect of the court, or on defense in a lot of games, or in trying to make better reads and passes. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I don't like to hate on players, and I'm not going to hate on Wiggins. All of these criticisms have applied over the last few seasons, but underneath of it all, there is still the immense talent that saw him go number one, and that allows him to drop 40 points when he is in the zone. And the good news is that he looks like he is improving in all of these areas. Now, it could always be a brief patch of form for Wiggins, but underneath the consistency, I think he is genuinely improving his defense, his three-point shot, his playmaking, and his effort. And it might not necessarily translate into big scoring numbers, but for the team, it means a lot. Wiggins may have publicly stated that he loved Jimmy Butler, and that he set a standard for the whole team. But I think that Wiggins is the sort of player and person that benefits from stability and less pressure. When he is feeling himself, you can see it on the court. And I can't help but feel that anyone playing with Jimmy Butler would constantly wonder what he was thinking about this or that play, and getting themselves out of a natural rhythm. And it's not just the mentality side of things. Since Butler's departure from the squad, Wiggins' role has become clearer, and he's resumed the shooting guard position that he's better suited for. When Butler was there, Wiggins would get less touches and would usually be placed at the small forward spot. This required him to guard bigger and denied him the athletic advantage he has over smaller shooting guards, and also meant that he stood in the corner a lot of the time. Now that Butler is gone, Wiggins has resumed the shooting guard position when Covington is healthy, and is the number 2 scorer alongside Cat. This is where Wiggins is the most dangerous, and hopefully the new coaching staff will allow him to attack from this position consistently. Because when Wiggins is on offensively, he is very tough to stop. His mid-range jumper is pure when in rhythm, and he's fantastic at knowing when the defense is giving him the pull-up, and when they two are far up and are inviting him to drive. This was no more evident than in the games against the Lakers and the Thunder to begin the year after Thibdeau was fired. Wiggins was lethal, and a huge part of the win in both of these games. But it was more than just his jumper and scoring. In those games, he made smart passes to three-point shooters. He looked super locked in on the rebounding side of things in these games as well. Hell, he just looked like he wanted to be in the game for every second that it was played. Wiggins was a huge fan of the late Flip Saunders, and it is no surprise that he likes playing for interim coach Ryan Saunders. Whether or not the Wolves persist with Ryan, they have to get a coach who can connect with and relate to Cat and Wiggins. Now, this is the NBA, and I firmly believe that most players should be able to play under any coach, with the condition that they are not terrible. But it is still desirable to try and find the right fit. The Wolves need someone who can put these guys in the right position to succeed, as well as ensure they are comfortable and happy with their roles. Because after all, the Wolves are committed to Wiggins and Cat with huge contracts. And the reality is that them being in a good position will translate to more wins for the franchise. And in the time since Thibdeau departed, Wiggins has really looked a lot more comfortable. They've been featuring him in the offense far more than they used to. Wiggins is getting pin down set for him, having plays run for him, and is making use of the extra space it gives him. A guy like Wiggins has to learn to make some plays for his teammates, but he will always be better used as the guy ending the possession with a shot. And now the Wolves are set up to feature him, I'm predicting a much stronger finish to the season, and hopefully his entire contract. With the starting lineup of Teague, Wiggins, Covington, Gibson and Cat, the Wolves have 2 main scorers and the rest are role players. Teague is there to set them up and score as a third option. Covington and Gibson provide energy and defense, while Rocco also provides lethal three-point shooting. This balances with guys like Tyus Jones, Anthony Tolliver, Gorgie Dieng, Josh Okogie and Dario Saric off of the bench. The offensive pecking order is clear, and Wiggins is second in it. The final thing about Wiggins' improvement wasn't just Butler and Tibbs departing. It has been the whole season, and that has been his defense. I may have been questioning Wiggins' defense over his first 4 seasons, but this season the effort has been there from day one and in nearly every single game. Wiggins is finally making use of his insane defensive potential, and it is having a real impact. When the Wolves run lineups with Wiggins, Covington and the rookie Okogie, they look exceptional defensively. Those 3 wings can switch every position, and all 3 of them have put in huge effort every minute they are on the court. If Okogie can keep his defense and shooting up, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get more and more minutes with the starters in a small ball lineup in the place of Gibson. But it is Wiggins' improvement on this end that is massive. It takes him from being an inconsistent offensive player who is below par on defense to being a good offensive player who varies from average to amazing, while also being a consistently positive defensive force. The first type of player is average and frustrating. The second is extremely valuable to any team. And while it may not necessarily be worth a max contract, it is beginning to get close. With this improvement, the Wolves still have a chance at making the playoffs. They will need Wiggins to keep this up, as well as requiring Cat to maintain his dominant play over the last few months. Since the departure of Butler, Towns immediately became the incredible offensive force he had previously been. Cat has been feasting on a diet of post-up, pick and rolls, drives, defensive rebounds, and three-pointers. And this has allowed him to become the Wolves and one of the NBA's most consistent and efficient scorers. And while doing this, he has also improved his defensive effort and intensity. Like Wiggins, the talent has never been the question for Towns. In his first few years, I would watch Towns with immense frustration defensively. Sometimes he would struggle physically and get caught out of position even though he was putting the effort. But at other times, he would appear to not even know what the coverage even was or look like he cared. Both of these things have looked better since Butler's departure. Towns is way more active and engaged, and while he still struggles and finds himself out of position at times, this can be forgiven when he's putting the effort in. If these two guys can continue to put the effort in and improve and make the playoffs this season, it would be huge for the franchise. If they can't, then they must come back next season with more determination than ever. Provided Minnesota make a smart coaching decision and surround Wiggins and Cat with quality role players, they should make the playoffs. If they don't next season, then the doubts around these guys might become even more real. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more NBA videos in the future, and let me know in the comments what you think of Wiggins and the Wolves.